All right, welcome back, Jeep crew. This is episode 7, and this episode actually has a title. We're going to call it Fun with Fans. And today the format's going to be a little bit different. We're not going to be using HP tuners for anything. We're not going to be doing extensive logging and testing and 0 to 60s and stuff like that. We are just going to be doing our power poles, and more specifically what we're going to be doing is taking our fan and we're going to do a couple configurations. First configuration we're going to run it just as it is, all stock, fan clutch, the whole thing as it is. Second configuration, I've got a little lockout tab that I'm going to put in there, and that locks the fan on. If you've ever looked at one of these fans before, and we'll look at it here in a little bit, it actually slips when it gets hot, and then when it gets overheated, the fluid starts to move through it and it actually starts to lock up, and then it freewheels again. And I've got a little tab that basically locks it completely solid. So we're going to do a pull with that, and then we're going to take the fan completely off and basically simulate an electric fan that's, say, not running. It's not pulling any power or anything like that. And then I've got a brand new fan clutch, and we might put that on for run 2. We'll have to see what we have time for. But to go ahead and get started, I've got the Jeep all warmed up, and I'm going to get ready for pull number 1. This pull should be pretty similar to the previous pull that we did with our throttle body, the last pull that we did with our throttle body, and then we'll go ahead and burn our fingers and take the fan and put that lock tab in there. So yeah, let's get started with run number 1. All right, I want to take a couple quick seconds to mention today's video sponsor, TexasJeepProducts.com. They have a wide selection of Jeep 4.0 Wrangler performance parts. If you're into that sort of thing, go check out the website, TexasJeepProducts.com. And now let's get back to the video. All right, let's go take a look and see what we got. All right, so we have our stock file pulled up here, and then this is run file 1 that we just did. 139.8, 125.01 on the stock, 177.3 and 158.4 on the stock. And as you can see, it's you know, so far so good. We've gotten some, I don't know why I always double click like that. We've gotten some pretty nice gains in some different spots, and that's awesome. Going just to real quick display our conditions, and we can compare. So a little bit cooler today. It was 93.7 when we did the stock runs, and it's 89.8 today. 1.03 correction factor on the stock and 1.02. A little less correction factor today because of the temperature. All other things being basically the same. So I'm gonna go ahead, we're gonna get the hood open, we're gonna let it cool down for just a second, and then we'll get started with locking our fan up. Okay, let me show you what I've concocted here. I made this little piece that's out of a 90-degree piece of aluminum. You remove one of these bolts off the water pump, and you install this and put the nut back on, and then what happens is there's bolts in here, and as this, these two parts actually freewheel, right? You can see they spin independently, and as this gets hot and overheated, this spring turns, it turns a little valve, and the fluid goes through here kind of like a torque converter and locks this thing up so that they attempts to spin together. What we want to do for this pole is we're going to put this in and essentially lock this hub to this outer shell, and what's going to happen is as that spins, there's a bolt in here, it's going to hit the head of that bolt, and it's going to stop and prevent it from spinning independently. And hopefully we don't like blow up the fan. I don't know if these things are really meant to run at like, you know, 5,000 RPM locked up, but you know, I guess we'll figure that out. And if that happens, you know, it's gonna be a good video. So let me go ahead, I'm gonna get this thing put in there and burn my hands a little bit, and then we'll start doing our next pull. Okay, so I don't think it really matters where this thing gets installed. It just has to be in here. Oh, hey, a bolt's actually gonna come out, and hopefully I don't drop it. Everything is about 10,000 degrees. I'm just touching it with my fingertips, and it is scaldingly hot. Yeah, you can see right now, especially like this fan's pretty loose. This clutch is pretty shot. Like, it's actually got a little bit of wobble in it. I don't know if you can see that, but it's shot, which is why we have the new one. Regardless, it still has a little resistance. Like, it tries to lock up, so it's doing something, and it's obviously been able to keep this Jeep somewhat cool. But this is gonna hopefully lock it up solid unless something fails, like the fan, or possibly my little lockup tab thing might fail. Like, that piece of aluminum might not have enough strength. You know, there's a lot of forces at play here when you get all that mass swinging around and whatnot. So we may have a failure here, we may not, I don't know. But it's gonna be fun either way, and I really want to see what this is gonna do, because I think that, you know, although these fan clutches aren't locked up all the time, especially like when you're full throttle, they're usually not locked up. They do lock up once in a while, especially at lower RPM and stuff, and I'm just curious how much power that takes away. Let me get you in here real quick, and I'll show you how this thing works on the motor. So we've got it in there like that, and then you see this fan comes around, right? And there's resistance on it, and boom, it hits that block, it stops. But you kind of see how flimsy that is. So we'll see if this thing holds together or flies apart. But let's go ahead and let's get set up for run number 2. All right, well, we got it in, we got it on. We're warming up here a little bit, but you can kind of hear how loud that fan is. Woo! It's winging around in there pretty good. This is gonna be a little sketchy, but we'll see what happens, I guess. Let me, I'm gonna get it just a little bit more warmed up, and then we'll start run number 2. Okay, we're up to temp, and I'm gonna go ahead and get started on our run. Whoa, that was scary. I didn't like that, neither did the Jeep. Let's go ahead and look at the dyno here and see what kind of damage we've done. All right, looking at the results here, we've got some loss, which is interesting. You know, the max power, it really didn't lose a lot, especially up here at the top. It's almost like it kind of came together, and I'm wondering if you know, if that has something to do with the aerodynamics of the fan. Like, it's spinning so fast it can't get a good scoop of air, or possibly like it's being restricted by the radiator, where it's almost like operating in a vacuum, and it can't move enough air, or if there's pressure behind it, something's happening where it's actually causing the power to come back together. And you know, maybe it's just a function of, it's a percentage thing. You know, it's 5% horsepower loss or something, which it's going to be a lot more at lower horsepower than higher. I don't know, but looking down here, that's 5 horsepower, and you know, almost almost 10 foot-pounds of torque, 8 foot-pounds of torque. And that continues. I double clicked again. Come on now. That continues out, I mean, 129 to 132, and then it kind of starts to come together after about 4,300, 4,750 especially. It really starts to come together. But down low here, for you low power folks, that's where there's some loss. You know, 9 foot-pounds there, 98 to 102 horsepower. That's a, you know, that's a substantial amount. That's like giving up our, you know, our tune again, just having that fan winging around, especially at low speed. This is one of those things where, you know, you're really seeing the difference at low speed, and then high speed, it kind of fades out. That's really interesting. Wouldn't have guessed that. I would have thought, actually, it would have started lower here and gotten more as we went out. You know, higher speed, it's having to work harder, but, you know, that's seemingly not the case, unless at some point here our little block broke. But I didn't hear anything besides really angry motor and lots of air doing things that it wasn't, you know, wasn't happy doing. But anyway, all that aside, let's go ahead and we'll take the fan completely off and we'll get set up for run number 3. All right, so we basically got the fan unbolted, and I was just removing my little block here. And you might be able to see it's got a little bit of bend in it, like it opened up a little bit. Apparently that it put a lot of force on it, and it made it kind of not so square anymore. So that's interesting, but I'm gonna go ahead and pull this fan off, and then I've got to bolt that water pump pulley back on. I might need some spacers for that or something. We'll see if the threads go down all the way, but then we'll go ahead and set up for run number 3. Okay, I think I got them all tight. So it looks like it's okay, and we can run it without the fan on there. Obviously we can't run it very long because we don't have a fan now, but we can go ahead and do a pull at least. And probably not going to let it warm up very much on this one since we don't have a fan. So it'll be a little bit unfair, but it's still pretty hot, trust me. My arms can tell you. But let's go ahead and set up for run number 3, and we'll see what she can do. Okay, back for run number 3. Let's go ahead and get it up to speed. I will tell you, it sounds a lot quieter. Holy smokes, y'all are gonna be shocked. I can see the results from here. I'm not gonna turn the camera off because you'll never believe me otherwise. So I'm gonna walk carefully and not trip and fall. Oh my gosh. Look at that, we busted 150. So, oh man, I didn't want this to be true. So, as much crap as I've talked about electric fans, oh, this sucks. Okay, so run number 1 was our stock fan clutch, stock fan setup 139. Run number 2 was our locked up clutch 137, but remember, we lost some of that power down low. Look at run number 3, 150.2, 187 foot-pounds. And you know what? It wasn't just at the top. Look down here, low numbers, you know, when you compare it. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna clean this up, and I'm gonna get rid of our locked up because that was like a worst case scenario. So let's get rid of run number 2. It's gonna be a little easier to see. Okay, so stock fan or worn out fan, stock worn out fan clutch. I know I'm gonna get some hate for that, but you know what? Screw you guys, I don't care. No, that's not true, I do. But look at that, there's 4 horsepower at 3,000. 4 horsepower. What's that? 7 foot-pounds. Dang it. Dang it, dang it, dang it. I did not want that to be true. Look in the middle. That's 10 foot-pounds at 4,000. 10 foot-pounds. 8 horsepower. And all the way up on top. Like, it just keeps getting better the further up we go. And I know, you know, if you are running an electric fan, you are going to draw from the alternator when that fan's running, and it's harder on your alternator, it's hard on your battery. It's, you know, it's not good for stuff. These really weren't designed to have that. There's alternator upgrades you can do though, and you can upgrade the battery and the wiring and, you know, go through it, and the fan doesn't run all the time. Man, oh man, dang it. I just can't tell you how disappointed that makes me. I want to be excited for you fan guys. Oh man, I didn't mean to do that. I want to be excited for you fan guys, but at the same time, I don't. It's really doesn't make me happy. Dang it. Anyway, okay, well, there you have it again. I had to pull it back up, sorry. I clicked the wrong button. Speed, we want engine speed. There we go. But wow, I mean, all the way across. All right. Okay, I might have to concede that having an electric fan seems to do stuff, or at least having no fan at all. All right, so let's go ahead, and I'm gonna go ahead and put the new stock fan clutch on. We got a little bit of time, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then we'll do another pull with that on. We'll be right back. All right, as you can see, we went ahead, we got the new fan clutch installed. Everything's all good and tight. And I was thinking, you know, when I was installing this fan, having my little inner monologue, I was thinking that, you know, people are gonna wanna say, well, it made more horsepower. Of course it did, because the motor was cooler. We didn't do the full warm-up cycle. And while that's true, I didn't wanna let it set and, you know, heat itself up the way we did for the other run. I'm not sure it affects the results that much, but you know, just to keep things fair and so nobody gets, you know, the wrong idea, it took me about the same amount of time, you know, about 10 to 15 minutes to put this fan on, about the same amount of time it did to take the other one off. The motors had roughly the same amount of time to cool down, and I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I'm not going to give it a lot of warm-up time. I'm going to start it up, and, you know, within a, you know, 30 seconds to a minute, I'm going to go ahead and start the pull. So this will be a pretty fair comparison to when we didn't let it warm up with the fan off. The new fan clutch with the fan on, I'm not going to let it warm up a lot, and we'll give it the best chance possible, and we'll see if we can get it to probably lose a little bit of power here, unfortunately. But all right, well, let's get into it, and I'll start with run number 4. Okay, so we're set up here, ready for run number 4. We'll let it warm up for about 30 seconds like I did on the other test without the fan. Let that temperature come up just a little bit. You can hear that fan working though. And there it went away. So the new fan's actually cycling. I don't think the old one was cycling properly. I never really heard it come on and off like this one is already. All right, let's go ahead, let it slow down a little bit, and then we'll start the pull. Let's go see what we got. Oh, well, now that's an interesting result. So the new fan clutch, and maybe this is due to not letting it warm up, but the new fan clutch was 147.5 off of 157.2, or I'm sorry, 150.2, but our torque stayed roughly the same. We dropped 2 foot-pounds, but you can see our runs are a lot closer together than the first run with the other clutch. So is that a difference in temperature, or was that something with that clutch? Maybe that clutch was stuck locked on a lot more, or maybe that's just because the engine was hotter. I don't know. You know, now the results are all over the place. I thought we had a pretty clear pattern, and I was really kind of mad at you fan guys, but now I'm back in love with my mechanical fan again. 3 horsepower. Yeah, I mean, albeit that's some. Let's go ahead and get rid of that first run. I just want to see the last 2 here. Let's see them side by side. So you can see up top, it does look like it's kind of coming apart a little bit. There's, you know, 2 horsepower there. There's 5 there still. But we really don't see that come apart until, you know, 4 to 4,200 RPM. Like right in this range right here is where it's starting to come apart. Everything before that, you know, it's roughly not quite 2 horsepower. And I kind of feel like I could live with that over an electric fan. And it's not that I hate electric fans, I just hate them. You know, the problems with the wire, at least the older fans, the problems you have with the wiring and the relays and the temperature switches, and then just when you get comfortable, something happens and you're overheating again, and then you fix something, and then it's a vicious cycle. I've done them on a couple vehicles, put the aftermarket setups on, and they're just, like I said, they get you just comfortable, and then boop, problem, and then you're stuck somewhere trying to jump relays and fix fan connectors that are burnt to a crisp, and I'm not a big fan. But you know, up here that's 6 up top. If we smooth this out a little bit, maybe we can see. Okay, so that's a little bit clearer to see. There's 3 there, 3 horsepower there, 5 there. Let's look at this big valley right here, big fat valley. That's 7. That's not nothing, you know. And 7, 8, almost 8 foot-pounds of torque. I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tough call. I really like my mechanical fan, but you know, once again, getting back to that bang for the buck. I mean, if you can get 6 or 7 horsepower on top, if that's what you're looking for is high-end power. I don't feel like it did much down here, but up here for sure it's doing stuff. And you know, if you can get 6 or 7 horsepower for, you know, an electric fan, I don't know, it depends on what a guy buys. There's stuff you can buy aftermarket. They can get a little pricey, especially the brushless stuff. But you know, we used to use like the old Taurus fans, but you know, those melted connectors and all that. I think there's like an Intrepid fan or something that guys use. A couple other different models that you can score out of a junkyard. You know, if you can pick something like that up and you can get it for, you know, 50 to 100 bucks with some relays and junk from the scrapyard, you know, 5 to 7 horsepower for that money is not terrible. If you spend, you know, $1,500 on a fan setup, I'm not sure it's worth it. But interesting results. And you know, I was thinking about doing our snap test today without the fan, but I kind of actually, to be honest, forgot. So, you know, if that's something we want to see later, it's easy enough. I can pull the fan off. If that's down the road, that's something folks want to see. But I think, you know, we got a pretty good sample, reasonably down low. You know, when we compare our run 1 to our run 3, and was it 1 and 3? And why is it still 3 and 4? I did something wrong. Run 1 and 4. I mean, we did start down here at about 2,900, you know, and you can see all the way out here it was you know, about 3 horsepower. I could only assume that kind of continues down. It's about 6 foot-pounds of torque. That probably just continues out as well. I don't think you're gonna see a big difference between 2 and 2,900 RPM, but like I said, if that's something folks want to see, we can talk about that at a later date. But interesting results. But I think that I'm not going to be putting on an electric fan anytime soon. You know, if we don't get close to our goal, we get close to 200 on this guy. If we're like 197 3/4, you know I'll be pulling that fan off, because we're going to be, you know, trying to get that 200 number. But you know, the mechanical fans are just super reliable, and you know, most of the time that's what these things are for, reliability. You know, driving through water, I know there's some advantages of shutting the fan off if you're electric, you know, but then you can forget to turn it back on, and you know, there's just all the things. And like I said, burned relays, connectors, wiring, overheated alternators, fried batteries. I went the whole circuit with all that stuff. Not really interested. I think for 3 horsepower, for me, it's not worth it. But you know, if you're chasing numbers and that's worth it to you, I mean, 3, I shouldn't say 3, you know, realistically 3 to 7 horsepower is more accurate. You know, it might be worth it. So I guess in conclusion, you have to think about it, reach into your own heart, as they say. Think about it from your own perspective. It's not bad bang for the buck though, so I don't know, food for thought. Anyway, I feel like that kind of wraps up what is to be episode 7. And I believe in the next episode, we're gonna get into some exhaust system stuff. We've got a catback exhaust for this. I believe it's an MBRP catback exhaust system. We're gonna put that on this guy, and we'll adjust our HP tuner tune to get that dialed in just so, and see if catback exhaust does anything. And then coming up after that, we've got a header, and then we start getting into the heavy line stuff. We're actually gonna probably yank the motor on this guy, and we depart from what I would consider bolt-ons off into sort of, you know, the gray areas of bolt-ons. We've got a camshaft, a thin head gasket, a couple other things that we're gonna do inside the motor, and see if we can do some stuff with that. So once again, if you like this kind of stuff, you know, do all the things. I don't have to tell you. But as always, thanks for watching.